Yeah, thank you.
Where's that anyway? Video, oh, I know where that's at.
Which was me? This is.
Starting our meeting.
Well,
Yes.
that's a good idea.
All right. So, why don't we, call ourselves to order at 5:04 or around whatever time the clock says. And, first agenda item is to review the agenda. We have our public comment first, followed by approving minutes for July 21st and July 29th. Vote to restore public access to Lake Wyola Dam. A joint meeting with the planning board for appointments of Carl Lounder and Jean Genvin as associate members to the planning board. Discuss plans for setting a date for the Lake Wyola Advisory Committee, second charge second discussion. Discussion about the formation of a town common beautification committee. Discussion about tie and bond, PFAS 6 months proposal amendment, discuss and vote on year-end budget transfers, line to lines, and the town administrator report. Was there anything else that popped up in the last 24 hours, Haley?
No.
Okay. Was that, order okay with both of you? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Why don't we open it up for raised, for the public comment? And if you're online or in the room, please use the raised hand feature. If anyone has public comment, raise your hand. Okay. Don, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Hi. I'm John Kinder, 2 Farrer Road. I'm also Howie's assistant as the assistant dam keeper. In 2023, I was part of the Lake Wyola Dam Study Safety Committee. And at that time, we were charged by the select board to study the safety features of the dam and public access to the dam. One of your select board members was on that committee. And our charge was to come back to the select board with recommendations. And we looked at over as far as the activities there and decided that we couldn't in all good conscience come back and recommend that it was a safe place for public access and for recreation. So the select board brought it before the town to try to pass a bylaw, and that got voted down at a town meeting. And there was a pretty large contingent of people who really thought that there should be public access there. They saw value in it. Many of them were my friends, and I can understand why they felt that way. But at any rate, you should take that into account here, and I'm sure you will when you take your vote. But there's a couple points that I want to make here before you do vote. And one has to do with the access to the dam. The Zavarulas are the neighbors there, and it's private property. And they've been pretty accommodating to us, especially through the repair that you just had done. And they also are pretty adamant that they do not like people and don't want people traversing other private property in order to get access to the dam. There is some access on Shutesbury property. It's a narrow path on a hillside, and you should be aware of that. It is kind of rather steep. You can get out there, but it is something that you should be aware of, and I hope that it will be addressed. I want to mention and talk about the activities that are allowed out there. Like any activities on the lake, there's fishing and there's boating and there's swimming. Fishing is not really too much of a problem. Howie mostly, and sometimes me, we have to pick up after the fishermen. That's not a big, it's not problematic really. But as far as swimming goes, I have some questions. Is it allowed anywhere on the dam? If we're open access to the dam for swimming, does that mean at any portion of the dam you can go swimming? can you be over in front of the spillway when there's storming going on and it's rushing there? Are you allowed to play on the spillway? Can you use flotation devices out in front of the dam to swim? The state's pretty adamant they wouldn't allow that because they don't know if you can really swim or not. So is that allowed to go out there? As far as boats, kayaks, and other flotation devices, are you allowed to portage a kayak and then dock it there and then go into the lake from there? Can you get in a kayak from somewhere else on the lake and come across the lake and dock it there and then go swimming? These are regulations to consider. And so the bigger question to me is, if there are regulations, who is going to monitor this? Who is going to address this sort of thing and these sort of activities? Right now, it's mostly Howie and me, and it's judgment calls. What should happen there and what shouldn't go on there? What activities should take place? And I'm not really sure that anything as concrete has been discussed and put down on paper as to what it means to open access back up to the dam. If it's just going to be business as usual, I think that we're missing a lot of points here that should be discussed, mostly with Howie. And my concern is that they're not going to be. And I really think they should. And I guess that's about all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Was there any other,
Yes, Melissa, I didn't realize that you could talk now. I thought it was when the item came up that we were gonna talk about.
it generally is. It generally is when you would.
You just.
Oh, okay. We'll call on you. You can add more to it. When we get to that point.
Sorry, Howie.
Right.
All right. Was there any other public comments? Okay. All right. So moving on to approving minutes from July 21st and 29th. Do I hear a motion?
I believe they were okay.
Thought they were fine.
Yeah, I make a motion. To both sets of minutes.
The only thing about the 21st is, there was an attachment there.
Do I hear a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, second. There was an attachment from, Amanda Alice. Well, I have. But it never said, it's just an attachment, doesn't turn to have her name on it or anything. So I'm just thinking we should change that,
Oh, yeah, we should put,
just so it identifies.
yeah,
Who's it- who's
who
it
sent
from?
it, what it was sent, that was the 21st, you said?
I believe it was the 21st.
What if we just added something in the public comment section that says, please see attached? Because it does reference what she's talking about
Yes,
in the minute.
please see attached, as long as the attachment has.
Yeah, as long as the
reference back to
attachment, yeah, as long as the attachment's sort of part of the
Was-
minutes, that's
yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get at. Either, anyway, that's fine for me.
Okay. Was there anything on the 29th, because the motion was for both, anything on the 29th that jumped out at anyone that needed? No, I did not do that. Okay. And all those in favor of approving the minutes,
Dalton, I.
Scott, right?
make these realized. Right? Okay, and now that we're talking about the possible vote to restore public access to Lake Wyola Dam. So we had removed public access because of the situation with repairs and those things. I had asked to have it delayed because I couldn't remember if we had voted to close it permanently and we had not. The town meeting had said that, they didn't want to, as John reminded us, that they didn't want to close access to the dam. So now that the emergency is over, we're at the point of voting on it again, to possibly reopen dam access. Haley, was there any parameters related to the repairs we had to think about?
No, the repairs were successful. I don't. For whatever it's worth, I don't think that our engineers or the officials at the Office of Dam Safety would necessarily think that it's the best idea to have public access to a dam quite like that. There are not some safety features that would make it better, if that was the option that the town was going to go in. So for whatever that's worth, I think that's something to consider.
And I feel a little conflicted. I was on the same committee that John was, and I was one of the people who voted against. I think we should have denied access to the dam for various reasons, all the reasons he mentioned. But it clearly didn't pass the town meeting. So, I mean, it's sort of funny for us, just as a group of three, to sit down and say, oh, well, no, actually, town meeting is invalid. We're going to just close it. That doesn't seem right to me. So I'm a little, I guess, I'm like, what am I saying?
It's one of those situations where I ask many people throughout our interviews we do, give me an example when you have voted against something that you personally believe is different.
Right,
What?
yeah, right.
Right. And I think that we're kind of all, you know, we're all there. Tim, did
You know,
you?
prior to this closure, back when it was open, what was the track record? Were there safety issues? Were there issues? What was the level?
Hallie and John would know better because they're right down there, but it came up at many times at emergency management meetings.
It did come up a lot.
Rocks get thrown from one side into the water. People picnic out there, kids run around on the dam. There is no guardrail or anything. There's signs. The John highlighted the homeowner that lives right there that has private property, does not want people passing on their property. Makes sense.
Yep.
They've been very nice with letting Howie, be able to have access, but it is a bit of a danger. Quite a bit of a danger.
As John,
And swim, people swim from there. I don't know if they dock kayaks or not. I'm not familiar with that, but
Can I put anything?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, starting from Locks Pond to the dam, the town does not have any property that's people can actually walk on. It's a side hill. It starts out at an angle probably like that, and it gets to an angle like that when you get over towards the dam. There's maybe 10 feet of flat land. When you get on the dam, there's rocks and boulders on the front side of the dam all the way along, which is for protection of the dam itself. On the back side, down at the bottom, there are rocks and boulders. And the same thing is for protection because the dam is made now for overflow. They're not there for anything else other than overflow. When the water goes down, it doesn't wash out underneath the bottom of the dam. For swimming, I just don't understand why anybody wants to go there for swimming. You can go to the state beach. It's free. It has been and probably always will be. They may have to pay for parking. They don't right now. They don't have this town, the state doesn't have a system for the type of parking that they're doing there. People, John's had my boats and stuff. There should be no boat launching or launching or docking any type of watercraft on that dam. I run them all off if they're there. I just don't allow it at all. If you want it. And as for signs, people have been down there fishing now, and they had to walk by 5 signs telling them they can't even be there. So signs are not the answer for this. And on the backside where the rocks are below the dam, there's a sign that says falling area. You can't put a fence up there because the dam is for overflowing. And if you put a fence, then any debris that's going to be coming, if it's flowing over the top, there's debris that's going to be coming, will get caught on the fence. They have a fence that lets go. Somebody could be, who's going to say that it's always going to work? And somebody leaning on that fence, and they're down over the edge or sitting on the thing. That's why fishermen they've been pretty good. One problem I have with them, they love to fish in front of the gate shack. You can't fish in front of the gate shack. That's where I'm drawing water. When the line comes in, it gets caught in the trash rack. The line never breaks at the hook. It always breaks back and halfway up or at the pole. Then the line goes back and forth across the trash rack. Now we got a problem where it's catching everything again. I did put a float line out around it. I went down there, John went down there one day, and there was a guy fishing in there. Or swimming swimming in that area. He thought that's where he's supposed to be. Well, that's the worst place you can be.
Yeah, right.
Because the suction, if I got the gate open and you get caught in that suction, I can't get down there and unlock that and close that gate before you drown. This, I don't, people gotta be educated, but the educated ones don't go there. Because there's,
Right.
and, the other thing is if anybody, any of the officials ever want to see what goes on at the dam, I would appreciate it if you'd contact me and come down and take a look at it. Because a lot of times everybody's talking about something, they don't even know what it looks like, let alone how it works. And you can't make a decision on something if you don't know how it operates.
Michael, I see you.
I'm not, I mean, I have an opinion about what you guys should do, but in terms of the quantity, given town meeting, I mean, what strikes me is there's sort of like two factoids that are worthwhile noting. I mean, we're beginning of August, so ostensibly we got 4 or 5 weeks of peak season, which is problematic, not to say that this is not an issue other times. And then there's fall town meeting, and so clearly, you know, I just think back to the library, but we've had second town meeting votes about issues, and so it seems like one way to think about it is bring something to town that you guys feel comfortable formulating and have town meeting vote on it in September, October, when it is, and then really the issue is what do you do for the next segment of the summer, you know, and you can either say close it or not close it, but knowing that it's not a permanent decision because you're leading up to town meeting, so it might be an easier way than saying, oh, town meeting said this, therefore we're sort of trapped.
So, whatever I was saying, you know, I live maybe, I have to say, I'm not anything agree with. I'm in complete agreement with John and Howie. And what I was thinking as Megan was speaking is that maybe a presentation. With visuals could be put together, because I agree with Howie that people who don't see what's going on, they made a vote on something that I don't think they probably completely understand. And I also feel like Walter should be brought in on it, because I know he's very concerned about that trash, and people driving if they fell in. These are, I mean, I just think it's, and the fact that there's no public access except for, you know, I think visuals of what Howie's describing is the way you got it down there is. It's not kosher. It's not a good idea.
What do we as a community, what are we missing? As a community, if, I can go first.
Good question. Keith.
Hey, thanks. I wasn't intending to comment, but since it's now identified as a potential hazard, has town council chimed in on liability?
Yeah, many times. Many times. Which is where all of our signs have come from, emergency management team. She identifies it.
Say what
She identifies it as a liability, but also there's reasons that we haven't been able to close it completely. And she was the one that decided or suggested, actually, she didn't decide, we did that, to bring us to bring it to town meeting. And she spoke against leaving it open at town meeting. So yeah, it's a risk.
What are we missing as a town if we keep it closed? No access. What's the town missing? It's a good fishing spot. Is it better?
A very large lawsuit if someone gets hurt, if we don't keep it closed, right? So
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to understand, you know, what this vote people supported to keep it open, being open, and what do they feel they're missing if it's not open?
Well, I think people just, I mean, I'm just speaking from what I remember from the town meeting, but people want to be able to go there. You know, they just like to be able to hang out in the dam with their buddies and, you know, have a beer or whatever it is and have a Go picnic on supper and go swimming and whatever.
Yeah, we've had
But there's other places to do that, right?
Yeah.
There are, yeah.
State Park, it's got open.
Yeah.
But we have had it was, went down there one day and then, this is a few years ago now, but there was they had like one of these tent covers up with with their, you know, all their food and tables and everything else, and it says, geez, you know, that's not the place for that. It's, and I hate seeing kids running across the top of the dam, because even those big stones, they're not all nice and even. You hit a corner on one of those, and unfortunately, they're over where the falling hazard is. And I'm surprised that somebody hasn't. Or that maybe I don't know if somebody did, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Paul.
Thanks, Tom Seifert. And I think I'm remembering from the last time, there might have been a lack of something that could be improved upon now in communication with the town about it. Even tonight, I didn't hear the word risk at first until recently. And I know that a lot of intelligent, good people can be appealed to by pointing out what the risks are very clearly and specifically. I think appealing to people as well with signage about alternatives and where those alternatives are. And it could be signage at that place saying, if you're here to fish, this is where you go to fish. If you're here to swim, if you're here to do a kayak, we have a kayak launch, we have a state beach, but there actually, for a person who's not familiar with the town, there's not a lot of words, aren't a lot of words out there to tell them where they can go and what they can do. And it could be a capitalization opportunity for the town as well, depending on how we direct them to what we're trying to do and where. And I feel as though just more appeal to the general public and the townspeople, recognizing what their concerns are and then putting those on signs and recognizing that. And there was some concern in the last group that it was the types of people that were there. And I think that should also be addressed. There's a very different demographic of the people who use the state beach and the spillover of those state beach users who live on the dam. From the out of season demographic, for example. And I'm talking about race among other things, to be clear. So I think a lot of robust, appealing communication to people's intelligence and desire to maximize the opportunities for recreation around here will benefit the town, them, will not put us at risk of liability, and will mitigate their risk of accident.
Just one more thing I wanted to add. I think, and Colleen and John made me know, I think it's fishing. They draw us fishing, because I see people fishing there. They fish there and they fish over by Shore Drive for where the culvert is, which are both, that's another bad spot. Because they're standing like in a really narrow area. So I think that, and these are folks that don't have a boat to fish on. So they're trying to fish on shore. And so we're okay fishing on shore. And I guess the other question I would have, because I don't know anything really about fishing, would more fish come to the dam? Because they get forced there because of the water? I don't know. Is there good fishing at the dam? Because the fishing seems to be the thing. I think that's what.
That's the big attraction.
Yeah, I think it's fishing. They're fishing when they're there.
It's usually below the dam, not over.
So can I speak? I forgot, I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Oh, sure, Mary, go ahead.
Thanks. So I also was on many of the committees that looked at the dam, as well as the Conservation Committee at the time when they looked at it. There really is no safe way to get to the dam except crossing a neighbor's property, which at the time people thought was a big concern for the town to say it was okay for people to walk across a neighbor's property to access it. But I think the bigger point that many people looked at is there are still many repairs needed for the dam, that the structure of this kind of dam was not meant to take the kinds of activities that people are doing on top of the dam. And many of the engineers we talked to felt that that was also a good part of the cause with the deterioration of the dam. So there was a huge safety issue. I was also at the town meeting where people made the vote. And I think it was a close vote, but I think, you know, there was no convincing the people that voted that they wanted it open. They wanted to access it despite safety issues or any of the other issues. And I think the big concern here still is the safety issues. Because the things that we witnessed and the things that we had out there, people dragging grills out there, young children running up and down the dam that might fall in. All of those safety issues, I think, is what convinced most of the people that made the recommendation not to do it. You know, and the safety issues for all the committees I was on more than outweighed, you know, should we allow people to be out there on a dam that wasn't designed to take that kind of activity on it? Thanks, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, no need to apologize. I have a question for Howie and John. How many people with it closed have been out there? Have there still been people out there doing?
Well, I find that they've been out there, not always are they there when I get there. I've had a few that are fishermen. In fact, last weekend, I think was a woman and her 2 kids went out there fishing. I don't think she understood what the sign said. I don't think she spoke. It sounded like when I was talking to her, it sounded like broken English, but I don't think she realized what she had done, because by the way, she backed off and left. But some of the things that have happened in the past, when you're talking about these boulders, when they're swimming on the lakeside, they pick up a boulder and see how far out they could walk, but they don't bring the boulder back. And then the other thing they do is they pick up a boulder, they go into the backside where the pipe comes out of the dam and try to bounce it off the pipe. And then, you know, Walter and I cleaned that area out. Walter again recently in the last couple of years, and there's boulders back in there again as people dropping them over the edge. But actually, we never had a real problem until we fixed the dam and concrete at the top. Before it was all grass and dirt, stuff like that. And the only people who would come down would be fishing. Nobody came down to swim from there. It just, but the other little deal secret. Now we do have that problem.
Okay,
Couple of hands.
oh, I see Jennifer and John. Jennifer?
Let me get my, okay, hi there, everybody. So I'm just gonna weigh in on the water side. So there's, I mean, maybe everyone's had this idea already. People like to fish there because the water's really deep. And that's a good place for certain species to hang out in the deep water. If there was a line that went out further out from the dam, a float line that had some buoys that said no admittance, or, you know, no swimming, no fishing, you know, something that wasn't a sign on land, but something that was a buoy, like they have no swim buoys or no wake buoys, that, and the float line came out further from the dam than the float line that's marking it now, it might have an impact on the fishing part anyway. I don't know whether that's been discussed or not. And now this is, I'm saying this a little tongue in cheek, but the comment about the concrete on the top is a good comment. It makes it a lot easier to walk out there. When I lived in New York City, if they didn't want pigeons landing places, they put spiky things on them. And the same thing is true, you know, near the seashore. If they don't want seagulls,
that's the answer.
There you go.
yeah, if they don't
Some
want
of those picky
seagulls,
things.
they put spiky things on there and they can't land. So, you know, I'm saying that a little bit as a joke, but hey, you know, it might actually work. Okay, that's all. Thank you. But the buoy line on the water that swings further out could be a good deterrent for fishing and for swimming, especially if there was a buoy that said no fishing here. Okay, that's enough.
Elizabeth, can I answer that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Float
Yeah.
line. I have a problem right now with the float line the way it is with the fishermen. They fish too close to it and they get caught in it. And until we put these heavy anchors on the end of the line, they used to grab a line and pull it in. and pull the whole float line in with it. If you go out further, I'm gonna really have a problem, because then it's all the fishermen are gonna get caught out in that area.
Gotcha. John,
I just wanted to respond to what you had asked about whether there's been ongoing visitors
yeah,
down there.
even though it's closed, yeah.
I wanted to tell you one which Howie and I found kind of amusing when I had to go over and talk to two people that were down there fishing. And this is when the lake was still drawn down somewhat. And he was standing right on the new trash rack and fishing out over there. And I went over and I said to him, I guess you didn't see any of the 5 signs that you had to go by in order to get out here. And his response to me was, well, none of them say no fishing. And so I was kind of like, all right. So I'm not going to get into I said, well, you're not supposed to be out here or anything. Well, we've been fishing here for years. And then so, well, have a nice day. I do want to mention that just yesterday, I saw a police officer down there having to have a conversation with somebody who was fishing down there. So, and I don't know how the conversation went, but he was talking to him for quite a while. I happened to be swimming. He was talking to him for quite a while. And then eventually the officer left, and eventually the fisherman left too. So signs have limited effectiveness.
Yeah.
I was going to
That's
suggest to
clear.
put one up that says, please don't bother the snakes. And then maybe that would keep it.
Carl.
Question on the signs, so any of the signs say either authorized personnel only or enter at your own risk?
And the one that you put up says that.
Yeah.
Says.
Yeah.
When we close.
Please remain time of fishing.
So maybe we get, I think maybe we look at paper sign, color of sign, the add on there, subject to $200 citation. And you're not gonna get everybody in every single time, but you go down, you see somebody, and they're there. Don't necessarily have to confront them, because that's a liability for yourself. All the mobiles, and they can go down and issue a citation. That was spread pretty fast. One fishes at a dam, you get a $300 citation.
I think that's
So. 20 tops. So.
You've got John with his hand up, and then
John. I think, go ahead, John.
I'm sorry, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think that you can claim that you were liable or not liable. You are liable. Every year, well, every 2 years, when we get our report from the Dam Inspection Committee, they make note of the fact that the town is liable for anything that happens there. And it actually says right in there, including death. And that is included in the inspection report that comes from the inspectors every two years. So all these discussions you have about signs and about putting up floats and such is reminiscent of the committee that Eric and I were on and all the discussions that we had. But we had to go back to the select board and make a recommendation of whether that was a safe place for the town to recreate. And our recommendation was not. And so it was put up before the town to pass a bylaw. The vote was lost by 3 votes. And I'm just wondering if that is the only way that such restriction can take place. Does a select board have to bring anything before the town when it's actually a public safety issue?
It's a good question.
We are, part of our job, a main part of our job is risk management. And, so we have that as something that we can, and that's partly why we closed initially during the emergency, was because it was unsafe. It was less safe than it was prior, which was still dangerous, right? So,
Well, there's gonna be more work done, right?
right, we have more work to
Gonna
do.
happen again.
I can speak to that a little bit. So I think undeniably it's a safety risk.
Yeah.
For various reasons that I won't repeat. As your risk manager, I would underscore what legal opinion was and say that it's not a safe access point. But what I could offer as like a glimmer of hope is that we have put in for grant funds Because if you think way back to when we first were doing their emergency repairs, there was always going to be the secondary requirement that we do a more in-depth evaluation of the dam and how it's structured for the long term. And now that we've completed that initial emergency phase, we've put in a grant application to help us with some design specs for the future. And one of the things we could talk to our engineers about is, I don't know. What do you think? Is there a way to make it safe for the public, or how could we structure it maybe differently? So perhaps in the future, there might be something, but I think in the here and now with the resources that you have, my professional advice to you would be to just keep it closed.
Thank you, appreciate me. Megan, that's
Yeah, I was listening to this, it seems like there's two incidents, one is closed, people open, you close and open it. It doesn't even close makes sense, but I think, John had mentioned it, people don't pay attention to something, so even if you vote to keep it closed. And you bring it to town meeting for a while, is the practical part of, if someone goes on there, even if you officially close it and they fall. Probably still liable.
Yeah.
So there's a subsequent, like, what do you do practically to keep people from going on?
Yeah.
And that maybe.
which has been an ongoing, well, even, that's why I asked the question. How many people are out there with it says personnel only, government,
Yeah.
and that's ignored as well.
Well, I think that's something we may maybe that's something we could put on the emergency management agenda for this coming Monday. Just talk about, is there an enforcement plan or some kind of metric that we could apply?
Yeah, I think I would err on this, I think, as Haley's suggesting, sort of err on the side of like, hey, it's a cautionary thing if people could get hurt. That's been my vote all along this whole thing. And with the town liability and so forth. I mean, one sort of way, I look at it as like, one way to do it is the way we do it where we vote and then there's a vote in the fall, rather than the town meeting. One thing is that if we could vote against it, and then if people really wanted it to happen, they could put something on the agenda in the town meeting. In other words, do it the other way around, do it backwards. We do what we want to do as a.
Close it,
we-
and then if people
people
want
wanna
to
open
keep
it,
open, they can.
They've got to,
make a citizen.
they've got to overrule it at the town meeting somehow, if that's possible.
It could be. I mean, I think at that point, we'd also want to consult our attorney, because, if we remove the word dam and put it with something else, can people vote to create a circumstance that's going to be inherently unsafe and pose a liability to the town? I think if it went your way, I would just also want to touch base with Donna and just see, has she seen that kind of circumstance before in a town?
No, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Because ultimately reliable. It's not, it's not the individual.
I think even, we are reliable. I think if, I see your hand, hang on one second, Nathan. It's that double-edged sword, right? Like, it is a great resource and it wouldn't be nice to enjoy, however. So it was a very big danger up to and including death, right? Nathan.
I was just gonna ask a couple quick questions. If you take no action, the area remains closed because you closed it already?
Yes.
And the thing that came before town meeting prior to this that addressed the question of the dam, that was a proposal for a general bylaw?
I don't know. That was before my time.
The select board put it on there.
Was.
Yeah, I think it was general. Yeah. But I can get back to you on that question. Just to confirm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, if that was the case, it's it might not be, I don't know if you need a bylaw to leave it closed, and you might just be able to take no action and mitigate the risk. And then if you need to do anything further, you can do, whatever you need to do. But that's, that's all I got.
No, good point.
Yeah, we
Good
could
point.
take no action and it's closed. We already voted to
Right.
close it.
So
Yeah. But the reason it's closed is because the work that was
emergency,
going on and that work is done.
Right.
So
that
isn't-
emergency work is done. There's
So
still
isn't
more
there
work
now
to
a
do.
need to move forward and not let things sit.
Yeah. What would the select board like to do? Would you like well, we could vote to keep it closed, knowing there's more dam repairs coming. Also, because of the dangerous situation it creates in the next few weeks as people come and find Lake Wyola. We could do no action and it stays closed. And I think if we're headed to a town meeting, special town meeting, we could put it on that.
I guess I move that we keep it closed and,
That's, I think John and Howie are the ones that know this the best. They know the risks, they know what's at stake there. And I think that's important input.
I think one of the problems was for the last time when it was brought before. People don't even know, it just came up quick. And nobody knew anything about it. They just went and voted how they felt that day, not knowing what they were even voting for.
That may have been why it was so.
I think you educate the public a little bit and then ask them to vote, maybe it'd be a little different.
So then maybe that's our plan, that we keep it closed. And then in the special town meeting, we consider doing the same thing, maybe educating a little bit better with pictures and drawings that show the danger.
Sure.
yeah, we could have, that's not a bad idea at all. to have-
Because we didn't have that the first time.
No, right.
I mean, we all know it in our heads because we've looked at it a number of times. We know. So, yes, Michael.
I volunteer, hey, we could do a little pitch on the Friday.
I can do that. I reserve the right to not do it this Friday, though. I want to think about how I want to do it. Okay. All right, before town meeting, you got it.
Leslie has her hand up and then we'll vote if we need to. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The second thing I was going to say, is there enough time to fully educate?
Can't hear her.
I'm sorry, is there enough time to fully educate before the special town meeting? Or should it wait for the next town meeting? Are there more repairs? When are more repairs expected to be done anyway?
So the repairs won't be for some time. We have to do an engineering analysis on the dam, and then that would guide whatever repairs. I mean, personally, I think special town meeting by bylaw would be some Saturday in October. I think about 2 months is a good enough time, because you also don't want to like wait too long while you're educating someone on any specific topic. You know, like if I were a cognitive behaviorist, I would tell you like you want to condense things and have it be, you know, over the course of several weeks, but not really much longer, because then people will either disengage with the topic or they'll pivot.
Can we get the engineers to do anything, to think about this, have that in their little?
I mean, I could certainly ask them if they could even just write something informal about their guidance. I can.
Yeah, what would they suggest that we do? I mean, they might have.
Yeah, I could reach out to, you know, Maya and our town council and just get some different opinions. Those three entities might carry the most weight, I think, in for people, so.
Have some pictures of what's going on down there, like,
Yeah, pictures are great. Yeah.
Speak better than words.
you know, what we're.
All right, so with that, Eric made a motion to keep the dam closed. Jim,
Second.
did you second that? Okay, all those in favor,
Stalker eye.
Alton, I.
make peace O'Neill, aye. Thank you, everybody, for those comments. That was helpful. Appreciate it. Okay, so moving on to our next item, is the joint meeting with the planning board for plans to Carl Lounder and Dean Jen. Nathan, you have to call the planning board to order.
Yes.
Form.
All right, it's a little bit later than we posted, but it's 5:46. I'll call the Shutesbury Planning Board to order. I'll note that present we have, I see Michael De Chiara, Stephen Bressler, Tom Seifert, and online I see Ashley Pycroft, Keith Hasty, and myself, Nathan Murphy. I don't think Jeff Weston is present. Is that true?
Right.
Okay. So then I'll note that the meeting's recorded, and then I will just, being a joint session, I'll ask Melissa to assume, to chair the joint session and go ahead and move forward with the topic.
Right. So, for those who aren't aware, when we appoint, members to the planning board, it's a joint venture between planning board and select board. And they bring appointments to us. And I believe Carl and Dean had both, attended a meeting and talked with the committee and got their vote of confidence to join as associate members. And associate members is a position, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't remember how all of these work with associate members, but if there was any member that needs to accuse themselves from the planning board, with one of the associate members step up and take care of that topic. Is that correct? Or more than that?
Yes, if a board member can't fulfill their responsibilities, because they're just missing.
Okay, no. Perfect, all right. Did you want to speak to that, Nathan, before?
Well, there's a provision in the zoning bylaw that allows for associate members. It's, I think the legislature made a session law for us on it. And it's, anytime due to absence, recusal, or inability to act, the chair can designate one of the associate members to act as a full voting member. And then, we had both the candidates at the last planning board meeting. We had a discussion with them, and the board voted unanimously to recommend we come to the select board on both candidates. And if you want to ask any questions or ask them to I'll do a brief introduction.
Sure.
We separately, we got two candidates. Carl Lauder approached me at town meeting, said he was interested, and then I think he followed up with me, and then he also saw a notice we sent out, so he just sent in a letter of interest based on that. And then I think Dean Gendron had conversations with Michael about town service, and Michael's suggestion was directed towards the planning board, and so he submitted a letter of interest as well, and they both made it to our last meeting. We were able to have the conversation, and they kind of come from, I think, different backgrounds, but both I think offer a good complement to the existing array of members we have.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a sparse introduction. I apologize, but if
That's
if
okay.
you want
That's
to,
okay. We can ask them too. So do the select board have questions? I have just a couple.
Oh, you go.
Dean and Carlson, whoever wants to answer first. What unique quality do you have that might fulfill the planning board? One or two, or your interest in it?
Guess I would just go off my experience and background. So most of my background is based in construction. Associates in landscape, construction, land soil science. So if I probably rank it, yes, would be lens to construction, understanding construction and what goes into a project when it comes to construction. Specifically with construction, I started out with landscape construction and then into gas stations. I gas station for 8 years, building gas stations. So that's kind of my experience. So that would be what I would say would be my uniqueness.
Dean? Do you have experience?
So my academic background is in science and policy writing. And my career trajectory has been in policy writing. Wrangling college students through those policies. So I guess my perspective on running a small city like a college or a university is around identifying what the common good is, making sure that townspersons have access to the rights to which they're entitled, and helping to provide advice to folks who are interested in projects where the impacts of those projects may not be fully appreciated by them, and to offer some insight on individualistic versus collectivistic approaches to building the town.
And then my second question, I alluded to it a little earlier, is can you give an example where you had to make a decision that went against what you personally believe for the better of a larger good? Have you had to do that, and do you have an example of what you might have?
Best example I give is, so currently I'm a property manager for senior housing. And one of the stages of our responsibilities is fair housing. And following guidelines, regulations, and rules. So don't really have room for your personal beliefs or opinions. One of the processes that we have is called reasonable accommodation. A resident can come and request to change your policy or physical structure of their apartment. We have paperwork in the process, that whole thing. And can't give a specific example, but there have been times where I'm like, assumably they leave to have that. That's not my place. It's not my place to say that. Not my place to make that type of decision based on my feelings and thoughts. So follow the process plays out. And resident quality of life is better by that. So that would be the best example I would be.
I think for me, this happens more than occasionally, and it returns to the idea of the interest of the individual as compared and contrasted to the interest of the collective. One of the examples that comes to mind from the last couple of years is the idea that college students who are still forming their prefrontal cortex and making good decisions some of the time have access on my campus to all of the 35 residence halls that we have all of the time. And many institutions make a different decision where a student is assigned to one hall, one they live in, and then they would call their friend and say, hey, I'm at the front door, come let me in. There are a lot of good reasons to do that. And it's the reason that were the decision line alone, I would make that decision, but we have not made that decision. And so left with that, my opportunity therefore is to focus on education and to assist those post-adolescents to think about the consequences of their decisions or failure to make decisions, and the consequences that those decisions have not on just individuals, but again, on the whole campus community. So I think it's easy for me to make decisions for the collective that differ than my own personal beliefs, but I think I've come to understand that public service is about the community and not about the individual.
Hey, did you guys have any questions for them?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you've been in a meeting, planning board meeting?
Yeah.
And they came back.
And met all these, the rest of that group, and you still want to.
Last chance.
Only pointing at us, not.
No, for my, and you've all voted, planning boards are unanimous. And you've read us you've got the backgrounds. So that's what I'm good to go. Yeah.
So do I hear a motion?
Make a motion that we.
I move that we appoint, Jean and, Carl, I'm sorry, Dean, not Jean, I was gonna say Jean, yeah, Dean and Carl to the, associate members of the planning board.
All those in favor?
Stalker, aye.
Walt and I.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye.
Forget the book.
And
I'll, Seifert,
I,
Bressler,
Aye.
DeCara,
Aye.
Pycroft,
I,
Hasty.
Aye.
I vote aye as well.
thank you.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you for volunteering.
All right.
Very much appreciated.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. Maybe-
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And congratulations to you for 2 associate members. Do you want to close your meeting or to,
Yeah, but before I do,
Okay.
I would just like to suggest to our new associate members to reach out to the town clerk. We have a new town clerk, and get yourself sworn in just as soon as you can. We got a meeting Monday.
Right.
And with that, I'll see if I can get a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, moved and seconded by DeCara and Bressler. Any discussion? No. All right, I'll call the roll. Bressler,
Aye.
DeCara,
Aye.
Seifert,
I.
Hasty,
Aye.
Pycroft,
I.
and I'm an aye. The planning board is now adjourned. Thanks to the select board and
thank you.
to our new members. Very good to see you here tonight. And good night to everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all. Feel free to stay, or if you'd like to, you can, you know. All right, so our next agenda item is to discuss plans for a date for the Lake Whale Advisory Committee charge second discussion. And I think I mentioned this to Haley, I can't remember, making it a 1-item agenda because it, there is a lot of engagement on that topic. That's just my suggestion. Pick the date, and, you know.
Make it a separate-
Something popped up,
One
we have
single
to
agenda.
put in,
Yeah.
something, but-
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so when would we like to do that?
I'm gonna be away for a couple of weeks here, but I can go
Well, we
to,
can zoom you in.
I know, that's what I'm just gonna say, as well. I know that.
Get away.
Can't get away.
So your next regular meeting is on the 18th.
Okay. Do we know what we have so far on the 18th? For our meeting in Finda, we will,
Too soon.
too early.
Well, I just go from,
Oh, when will you be back, Eric?
I'll be back the 20th, so if we did it the 25th, I'm here.
Do what? Okay. How are you on the 25th, Jim?
Yep, should be good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so why don't we plan on that then? 5:30, 6:30, whatever.
Yeah.
Do we want to stick with our usual time of 5? 5:30?
5's fine with me, if it's early, Jim and I are retired.
Fine.
Yeah.
Well, it's Tuesday, I'm at home, I work at home, so.
Oh, there you go.
Since there is gonna be such an interesting. I was in a little. I don't know if we can consider that one to be.
We could do, I guess we could do 5:30.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do 5:30.
Could see Mark on there, so he maybe notify interested parties, from the association.
We'll definitely put it out. We can get that scheduled really quickly since it's a one agenda item.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we can actually, if I have that posted by tomorrow,
Okay.
get that on the radar.
And that could go on the
So
front.
what's the
And that can go on the Friday 5.
25th, 5:30?
Okay. That works.
Mark raised his hand.
Mark?
This is Mark here. I think that's a great idea and good timing. But is there any chance that we can get the presentation that's on the website corrected and reviewed, publicly reviewed so it's more accurate?
What do you mean?
Well, there's a lot of inaccuracies in there, a lot of, for example, it says that the association chooses members for the committee, and they really don't.
But Mark, that is reflective of the 1991 charge. I pulled that information directly from a town record.
Okay,
If
but
you
that's
want,
not
you can email me offline if you'd like.
Oh, sure, I'll be glad to do that, yeah. Does that mean anything will change, or is it a way, or is up for discussion?
I would defer to you guys. I mean, the information that I pulled from that was from available town records, like I wish I had a copy and I don't, but in the 1991 charge, it does say explicitly 3 to 5 members pulled directly from the LWA roster. So that language is correct. It might be different in practice. But that is what I found when I was doing the research for the presentation. So,
So I think if that was,
The practice is that that members are proposed to the select board, and the select board chooses the membership like every other committee.
but that original document though, states that, and the practice may have changed from when it was initially.
well, and I think
Practice is different than what the charge had said.
at least my intention with that presentation is to talk about what policy aspects need to change. And so for that part, it is germane to the discussion. I mean, obviously practice, well, it came up the other day, what we have written down, it may not necessarily always be what happens, but you have to start with what's written down. And Mary has her hand up.
Mary David, I saw your hand. Mary?
I'm okay. Thanks, sorry.
Oh, you're okay, okay. I think, we can't, well, because it was a public meeting also that it was presented in, we can't, it becomes a public record, so we can't change it.
That's all.
Right, so, it'll have to stand as long as it has the date on it in which it was presented.
Mhm.
And then if we do a new one,
Yeah, I can always
right,
amend,
because it's open meeting
but
record.
yeah,
So we have to leave it, for that purpose, Mark,
Okay,
because it was presented in an open meeting and public meeting.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Good question. Right,
8:25.
8:25, 5:30. Correct. Okay. And part of Friday.
I'll put it on the calendar.
The next is the discussion proposal for the formation of a town committee or town common beautification committee.
Can you share, Brandon, please?
Oh, just give me 1 second. You said that you want the presentation?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Up there.
There.
Where was upstairs?
Like the Wizard of Oz. So I wanted to put an idea.
Can you see it?
Yes. Do you want to full screen it though? Thank you. So every day I pull out of town hall and I look at the common and I think it's really nice, but I think there could be something more there. And if you go to the next slide. So currently we have our Veterans Memorial and we also advertise events on the Common. But outside of that, the space is pretty underutilized. You know, it's like a blank canvas in a lot of ways. And I think that to me is the perfect opportunity to try to make something that's a little bit more highly visible, a little bit more engaging for the public. So if you go to the next slide. So a space for everyone, a third place. So third places are, it's not home, it's not work, it's that place in between. You know, maybe it's your favorite restaurant, maybe it's a park. That's obviously not our town common, it's someone else's. But it's just a location where you can gather, and the town common makes perfect sense because you've got town hall, you've got the post office, eventually something will be done with the MN Sphere. And so how do we maintain our rural character? Because we don't want to lose that, but how do we maybe just modernize it and freshen things up? So next slide. You have to keep in mind when you're working on the town common that no net loss compliance. So making sure that whatever structural footprints we have are offset by improved natural resources and historical alignment. So there's Mass General Law that pertains to common town common space. And so any plan that we do have needs to adhere to that. Next slide. And so, but within that regulatory framework, there's a focus on passive recreation, and that tends to be a little less, you know, less barriers to entry as opposed to like erecting a structure on the town common, right? So that would focus on natural, scenic, open conditions. So things like native plantings, things like benches, accessible paths, because anything we do needs to be ADA compliant. So next slide. And obviously we want to make sure that we're still honoring our veterans, and we want to make sure that that's still a focal point and a really sacred space for that. Next slide. And so for me, when I was thinking about it, what made me really excited were things like pollinator gardens, reflective benches, ADA walk places, you know, things like chessboards that are ADA compliant. So someone could have a game of chess with a friend on the common. Next slide. And so I did use some graphic design to do a very crude mock-up of what things could look like. Not to say that that is what things will look like, but technology is great for that. So we could, in theory, with this committee, make some plans for the near future, and we could also make a ghost footprint, right? So if eventually we did want to pursue something like maybe a bandstand on the common, so you could have concerts, you could build that into the design while you know, while just focusing on those passive features. So, you know, pollinator gardens, a lot of those, dragonfly habitats. Don't look at the spelling, because when you use the computer like that, it's all wonky. But next slide. The next slide has some more computer generated mock-ups too. So, you know, if you wanted to just do a stone path with some gardens, or a stone path, or, you know, so there's some different ways that we can be creative in what we're doing. Those are some ideas. Next slide. And whatever the process is, whatever the end result would be community led, right? So we could do some interactive mapping. We could ask people to identify what features they really like in town commons. We could do focus groups and surveys. And we would obviously want to target, you know, different populations in town, you know, particularly seniors and parents with children and veterans, and doing community listening sessions so we can gather all that input. And then next slide. And hopefully a zero budget. So as we all know, it's a tough budget year. Every year is a tough budget year. We can leverage our Community Preservation Act funding to do any and all upgrades to the town common. So the goal would be to design a plan that can be entirely funded by that grant. Next slide. And so for me, the roadmap would kind of look like we have the summer to do some initial planning and getting the committee together. And then in the fall, you know, public workshops, making visits to other town commons to see what people like, working on the CPA application in the fall, in the winter. I think they're due at the end of December. And then in May of next year, we would have an annual town meeting presentation and a vote for the funds. And then I think that's it. I think that's the whole thing. Oh, so just we're having this meeting tonight, and then we would be wanting to reach out to different committees, you know, conservation and historical come to mind first, but there may be others. And then just helping with those visual concepts to kind of articulate what do people want potentially in design, and then the working group doing the work. And then I think that might be it. Yeah, questions?
Go back to that,
Which one?
you go back to that last one.
Okay, back one. It's always harder to go back than it is to go forward.
Yeah, just to make sure, understand your
Mhm.
process.
Yep. So so I have a proposal, which Brennan can also screen share in a second. And then, so my goal would be if we can come to an agreement tonight that you think it's a good idea and something worth pursuing, that we could get the committee draft approved and then start posting for that on the town website. And so this would be a very true ad hoc committee. It would dissolve after annual town meeting because its work would be concluded, hopefully with a favorable vote. But basically the committee plan, it just reinforces that we're looking at passive. We're not necessarily looking at building structures. We're just looking at passive ways to enhance the town common. It outlines that the community-led design, so making sure that we have those listening sessions and a survey and meeting with stakeholder groups. I have on here. You know, it talks a little bit about a master plan, right? So we can create not only for now, but try to think ahead for the future. And doing some site comparisons of comparable town commons. Making sure that it's funded with 0% impact to the operating budget. Making sure that we adhere to Mass General Law. And if you scroll down to membership, so really, I think, you know, a 5-member committee with myself as ex officio, you know, I think that the most efficient way to tackle it, and we would want, you know, anyone to apply. But if someone has like a background in landscape design or gardening or preservation or organizing, like those would be especially valuable traits. And then there's the timeline and deliverables, right? So we're doing the initial phase, then the fall planning, all to the lead up of the application, and then town meeting. And that's my proposal. I'll take questions.
Yeah, Michael.
So I love it. I mean, I think mostly for Jim and Eric, if you remember way back, when we did like the select board had called it like little something or other. But the select board.
Low hanging fruit.
There's 2 benches that the library sort of required, I don't know if they gave them to the library or and took them. But the select board purchased them with the idea of putting them on the common, because when we were discussing it, you know, whenever that was, 8 years ago. There's literally no place to sit on the common, you sit on the grass. And so the idea was, we wanted to create a place where people could gather because it's a common, so minimally you need to have a place to gather. So I think, you know, the select board not as polished and robust as anybody's as David's talking about, but I think the seed of the idea was there, so I really support it because there's no, you know, we have very little places to gather now, we have the library, but to do it outside, and I think to do it in this kind of way, in fact, we have 2 benches to start, hopefully
Yeah.
fit into the plan is not there. And then, you know, I just also just thought of once the working group can sort out, but we currently, I still believe, have working Wi-Fi at the library. And it might, you know, on the one hand, you want to have people like hang out in nature and not be connected.
True.
On the other hand, people might.
The 2 can go hand in hand.
But the other thing is you could create a practical place where people want to be outside, you can sort of do whatever. So it's worth thinking about that. So I massively support it. I think it's great. And the whole select board has supported it.
Leslie.
And with all apologies, I'm asking one, and now I hear that there's an individual, but is there a committee that has asked for this? And where I am coming from is historic and old, and I respect you wanting to freshen things up, but one is there was always a professional photographer who came annually on his way to a photography conference at UMass. And he always stopped here and he always took pictures of our common. He said, this is the only place in New England that I know of where you still have the old in the church and the guideboard and those sort of things that you can take a nice picture of. So that's just one person and one experience. But I also would like you to consider that things like Celebrate Shutesbury, it would need to be Celebrate Shutesbury needs a wide open space.
We still do it.
I'm sorry?
Are we still doing?
Not at the moment, but there may be other times. This is our one open space. I really appreciate pictures, and pictures always make things look nicer than they actually are. And there was, back in the 50s, our common was just a mess, and there was a community group that worked hard together to cultivate it, bring in soil, make it green and make it nice. So that needs to be considered. There's a tree right now that needs to come down over there. There's not a bit of green on it. And the ash tree is not, it's green around the edges and not in the center. Those kinds of things are important to be done, and those will cost money to take care of them. But I don't know, maybe a pollinator garden on the one of the sides or back in the church where, yes, it can be quiet. And I agree with you that a bench over there by the Sphere building where there might still be Wi-Fi is nice. I think she had a sandbox or something there.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I think, for parents, kids to hang out.
Yeah.
at the library.
You got two minutes.
But only as an individual, I would say, only as an individual, and that's all I'm speaking about, is to caution you to consider the visual. I walk out of the town hall every day. I think this is the most beautiful place in the world. And it's not many places in our town that is wide open like that. So I like your ideas. The town common historically does extend all the way back behind town hall too. And maybe that would be a nicer place for community gathering. You would have Wi-Fi. You've got picnic tables there already. And we
can't on everything because it is the leach field.
Yeah, but we can, there's parking around town hall. And I just wanted you to consider that. I'm not sure who desired this. I know it wasn't me, and I was surprised in Friday Park to see that something new happening. And I, the first to admit that I'm old folk. But I just hate to see our one historic landscape just disappear into sidewalks that look pretty in the pictures, but may not. Who's going to maintain it and keep it looking as lovely as the pictures? So I'm sorry to be a wet rag.
No,
You know.
that's fine. I do want to add something to Leslie's comment because I was thinking about that and the pictures don't show it. I know that they were just mock-ups. Is that the War Memorial, and a lot of money went into that. So keeping kind of that in the guidepost.
Yeah.
Does that,
You know.
just saying, not that they're not, because this is things like Iran, just said Iran and Afghanistan. There's nobody, we didn't have anybody in those conflicts.
I don't know that they've reached out yet to everybody that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's some things going on behind the scenes of.
Oh, okay.
reaching out, yeah.
That's different.
So,
And that's my.
yeah.
Just, I mean, I think, Leslie, I always respect your opinion, because you got broader perspective, so my sense is, you know, it could be on the common, it could be behind town hall. What excites me is the idea of creating a gathering place, because there's so few places to gather, and so if we can pull it off somewhere else behind town hall, where people feel like, oh, this is an attractive place that I know about, where I can hang out. You know, whether we're kids or friends or whatever, like, I think that, to me, that was sort of the initial motivation. Like,
Yes.
we don't have places to go.
And I respect the fact that there are benches in the sandbox area at the Sphere, and I see people recycling there all the time still. So either area, it's just the historic very center. I just feel it's, and I'm the only one who feels that way, but I just feel it's so beautiful right now.
Well, I know at one point there was talk about like building pavilion kind of thing, where it's for outdoor music.
A gazebo.
Right,
That
some,
has been over the years and.
but that was
That was behind
the talk was behind town hall.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm not sure you could do a little bit of both, so I guess I'm getting at.
Right.
is that, depending on if you, and I'm not, obviously, I'm not on the committee that's status. We haven't.
Not yet.
Not yet, no, that, but,
Yeah, there's been a couple of people that have, over the years, that I've been on select board, who said something about something in the back where music could be played and people could gather. And a garden too would be a great place to add, to that.
I've got community gardens, and I know Haley's presentation doesn't include community gardens. I thought that first they were gonna be here, and then they were gonna be at the library, and maybe it's just manpower or interest that's not.
I think it's manpower and water power, like, if it's here and it's way down, like.
Well, water's a good thing to think of on the town common.
Yeah.
There's
a well there,
At least to know.
Yes, anyway, yes.
Tom.
Thanks. I started with a question partly answered, you spoke, Leslie, about, is there an inventory of spaces that would be amenable to the goals at hand in town? Because I also thought, and I don't know if I'm right to think of it, the space behind the fire station.
That was a recreation area.
And I heard that, and I experienced.
It's a little wet sometimes, but yes.
But I didn't know if there might even be more, because I thought of behind the town hall, you're speaking, I just learned tonight that that's technically part of town common, so I'm glad I heard that. And I wondered, are there others, I'm not thinking of attached to the school or a cemetery somewhere or something, or is there any handy list of that? But that aside, because that can be answered. I'm noticing that there seem to be perhaps two starting points. And I'd like maybe us to think about clarifying or suggesting, clarifying, what is the starting point? What is the goal? Is it a community space? Is it a gazebo? Is it a pickleball court? Is it a flank? Or is the starting point, what do we do about the historic town common? What do we do about the space behind the town hall? What do we do? And starting with the space and then customizing it as opposed to, well, what is it that we actually want to have in the end, wherever it might be, and then decide where it's supposed to be for it. So it seems as though we're mixing the two a little bit. Modernizing and freshening the common or creating a space in the common that is for the public to do a certain thing, even if it's just community. And is that necessarily the best space for that, whatever goal we come up with? And maybe not start with, or think about not starting with, what do we do about this house or this lot?
I can answer that.
So I hope I make that very clear.
So as you were saying that, Tom, what struck me is in the title, do it town beautification planning committee.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Oh, strike the word common.
Take the common off of it, because it could be behind town hall, it could be behind the fire station, it could be somewhere else to start, right?
I would
And then,
probably want to leave that in only because a big component of it is the CPA application. But I can answer a couple of those questions. So it wasn't like anyone reached out to me to do it. It was just an idea that I thought, why not get community input? So I think that's the big thing. Like the intention of the project isn't to have one particular person say, even if they're on the working committee, this is what we should do. It's to hear from the community, what are the things we want? Do we want pickleball? And do we want just a place to hang out and read? And so the process would guide that. And so the initial starting point would be if we go back to those passive features. So something like pollinator plants. It would start there, but making sure that when the committee drafts a plan, it includes the ability to account for future growth, right? So not trying to redesign things in such a way that it would preclude us from future activities. So a part of that could be making sure that there's adequate space on the common to make sure that there are public events like the townwide birthday party or Celebrate Shutesbury. And maybe in that case, it's just some sporadic plantings.
yeah,
around,
rally edges or.
because one of the things that I kept thinking about, and I know the historic value, but I thought about, wouldn't it be such a great thing when the kids do their preschool field trip. If you walk to the common and there's a little dragonfly habitat and it tells you about how dragonflies eat mosquitoes, and mosquitoes aren't great because they carry diseases that can hurt people. Obviously that's very simplified, but like, wouldn't it be really good to have some more interactive elements in that way? But how do we do that while still maintaining our rural character, our memorial, our guide board, and our historical value? And I think that how we do that, I can't say, but I think it'll become apparent to us through the community-driven process. And I would certainly want to make sure, as the ex officio, that we're doing or at least attempting to do that robustly. Are we making sure that we've done surveys? Are we making sure that we went to the library and did a listening session, and then maybe we have one virtually? And then, you know, did we reach out to the historical commission to get their input? Did we reach out to the conservation commission? You know, all those things. Because that'll tell you ultimately, if everybody says, well, we like it just the way it is, well, then maybe there is no case to make a grant application at all. But we don't know that unless we ask the question.
And also, like you said, Mike, knowing the back is part of the common was something I thought they were
Yeah.
such two divided spots.
Which is actually really helpful, I think.
Which is helpful because because you could have both, you could have maintaining and then you could have beautification or those other elements, which is nice. Leslie, I see your.
Yes, I would say that I'm just one person. I would say that very practical and that should be looked at is the tree that's should come down. And the ash tree should be considered. But the children, when they come to town hall, are much safer out back. That's where they see the fire truck. And there's plenty of room. There was plans originally for gardens out back. And that is, I just can't repeat myself enough. That's the only really open space. And we've seen many railings out there. Doesn't have to have benches to have a rally. And there's plenty of space that's quieter than right on the main road for having these kind of community children events. That's safer too.
We can put the speed bumps and that'll slow down the traffic.
I almost got hit turning into the town today.
It's a serious problem since GPS and the.
Oh, yeah.
And we are monitoring that with the accidents, and it's not just dump trucks, it's small town too.
Big agenda
Go ahead, Don.
I like the, idea of keeping it the way it is, wording and whatnot. But would it mean therefore, if we kept the town common beautification committee, that it would include this guy?
That's technically the common.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this whole space is the
How
common.
many people think about that?
No.
You know, and it could be a real opportunity. If it's all town common, then this might satisfy.
It might, yeah.
Speaking of all of town common.
They get there.
Yes, also, the town common goes absolutely to the stockade fence, it goes absolutely to the. Almost the porch of the brown house behind the church.
It goes.
The private property owner got permission to put gardens in behind the church. Partly to protect the house that she owns there, pretty certain. There was no permission to put plantings all along the stockade fence, so in many ways your work is done for you. And I just had to bring that up.
Yeah.
But truthfully, the area behind the church, which I know isn't what you have in mind, is a nice quiet space and probably could benefit from a few plants or something and reclaiming it, that this is part of our town common.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. The church is only on the footprint. They have a foot and a half or a foot beyond their walls, not even that much. I mean, that's very little. So that is all town common that.
All around the church.
They only get, I think about the stone width, they have some stone. It's very tight.
A lot of potential.
Um. Did we want to vote on this tonight, or do we want to think about it longer?
So what,
Maybe read
what
through it
would,
with
what
the
would the vote be tonight? To establish it?
Establishing, yeah.
And I would just
Say,
amend it to add in the language that includes the land behind town hall.
Town common meeting, yeah,
Yeah,
like
mm,
I said.
all of these things.
Expanded.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should look into it. I think we could conceivably do something to that part of town common that is not much. I mean, you could have a couple benches and all that and still be an open space, basically. And it would still look a lot better than it does now. I mean, so I'm just saying, you know, again, I'm not on the committee, but.
yeah, I think we have a couple of,
Yeah, I feel like we
I
have.
think we have a couple of potential members. So,
Okay,
That's what I'd say.
okay, Jim, did someone want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we support going forward with this proposal to get a committee.
Second.
With the
Yeah.
expanded caveat of the expanded, definition of town common means this area. Okay, all those in favor?
Well, tonight,
Stark Eye.
Make me some yet line.
thanks for bringing this forward.
I will say we may want to save an open space for a tent. That was really handy during COVID.
Oh.
Town meetings.
It was, and where did we park the cars? On the town common?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Our open space. So.
Pretty big group. I'm not sure who leads it now.
Just a
Miss
couple
Merrill?
of the well, we want to make sure we
They
stay.
do a lot of the gardening.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to look at like.
There's a good group though.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Merrill's in
They're
it.
pretty active. They're pretty active. They do some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, the gardening?
Yeah.
Yes, we have some master gardeners in town.
They're really, that's some nice work. I think they're gonna be involved with the library, aren't they, doing some of the work down at the library?
They planted some roadies. For a ditch.
All right.
I'm glad you brought that up because I do agree with you that they are very generous, hardworking people.
Yeah.
They planted all the plants around this building.
Yeah.
Yes.
The spirit.
Some of the bushes are leaning against the building and, I don't know if that's going to be developed. Amongst us knows about whether or not plants should be going into the building.
Well, it sounds like one of the new planning board members.
I was just,
be able to
I was just gonna
address
say, I mean, Carl,
So-
Carl.
There are, what I'm trying to get at is there are maintenance issues that come up and should be addressed, because I don't think it's good that plants are starting to get so close to this building. The lines that need to be addressed, trees, being taken care
it. Yeah,
of.
the trees fall under their tree warden, which is good because we can take them down.
There is outside agency gave us maybe 3 months that got planted in time. It's getting bigger now. It's gonna be a problem someday. I don't know about that, but just remember when it's planted, they do become,
Good point.
If you're lucky.
Sometimes in our lifetime,
Doesn't always work for me.
sometimes in our lifetimes. Thank you, Leslie.
well, for listening.
Oh, you're fine.
Say
I've lost my agenda.
Listening to.
Yes. I have moved there it is. I moved my agenda. All right, discussion of the tie-in bond PFAS 6-month proposal on this.
Yes, a total of 180. So we had originally received a proposal from Ty and Bond for a 3-year extension. We've about reached the life of our contract with them, our first contract with them. And that's the language of the contract is such that the costs were no more than $104,000 a year for the next 3 years. So I had said back to Ty and Bond, well, that's really too high, and at that point, we need to look at procuring these services so that we make sure that we're getting the most competitive deal for our tax money. However, in the interim between the procurement process and signing that next contract, we still need to do testing and monitoring. And so that's what is before you tonight. So we discussed this at last night's finance committee meeting, and looked at the proposal. So this current proposal will say, that the scope of work for the next 6 months up until the end of December is for a cost not to exceed $62,700. I have, one of the questions that came up at the FinCom meeting last night was, if it's for half a year, why is it not half of the original proposal? And that was a very good question. So I've sent that on to Ty and Bond, but I don't have an answer yet. The FinCom had also asked for,
Well, the original one was a year ago, right? So,
well, their proposal for the next 3 years had been like just over $100,000. So why were we not seeing about half of that bill for 6 months? And the FinCom was also interested to try to get a per test cost, which isn't clearly articulated in here. What is articulated in here talks about monitoring of the double end POET systems, which I believe there are 14 houses, and then another 20 or so that are on single filter POET systems. And it covers, if the test pings positive for PFAS, they initiate a 500-mile radius, and then they do subsequent testing.
500-foot radius.
Yeah, sorry. My bad. That changes things quite a bit. So the finance committee, we do have about $92,000 in a PFAS account. So that would cover this cost, but what is not necessarily included in this proposal, which is really important, is that it doesn't cover the laboratory analytical service. So so not only do we pay Ty and Bond, but we also pay Pace Laboratories for the testing. And what's also not included in this proposal is that the town would be responsible for, if a resident needs bottled water, we would coordinate and pay for that. We would pay for the public notification letters and the delivery, installing new POET systems, and annual Mass DEP fees will be billed directly to the town. So there are some.
I think those were already billed to the town directly, right? Or were they?
Some of them,
the bottled water we were taking care of.
Some of them were.
Brennan
Oh,
stand up.
yeah, Brennan, jump in.
No, so yeah, so we did receive an email back from Matthew Wagner.
Good.
That kind of talks about some of the costs. So I don't know if that's something you want to kind of explore real quickly.
Yeah, just really scanning and not really digesting what I'm reading. The per test cost is about $500, which includes coordination with the various owners and the lab, the data evaluation, travel and mileage. And there's some contingency built into that cost. The amendment includes some out of scope costs for services that have already been performed this fiscal year. So that's why it's not exactly half. So that does make sense. And I'll give you a different update at a later date, but I think that essentially answers those two questions. Thank you, because I hadn't seen that yet. So the real question is, we certainly can cover this cost, and but what we have to pay attention to is, what do we do from January until June of this fiscal year and then beyond? Because if we only have $92,000 in that account, and this is, not to exceed, so we know it's not going to go over that amount, 62,700, plus we pay for the lab analysis, it doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room. And I know there was some hesitation last night about, having to go before town meeting and present, an additional cost to taxpayers, but that is certainly something that we should be looking at as a potential alternative, and how we address this. Because it's certainly not a cost factor that's going away for the town, and
might only grow.
it could only, and
Is it still growing? Do we know that? I mean, is it?
I think it's
that 500-mile thing.
Brennan, Brennan looks at the analysis report more closely than I do. I don't think there's a significant difference though. that right?
No, I wouldn't say there's any significant differences. We're still seeing a lot of, a good mixture of non-detects and then detections, but they're below the 20 parts per trillion that, require installations of those POET systems. I think the only increase in testing we had this year was due to the problem over at the school with the oil and them having to do testing
Oh,
to
really?
the abutters.
Yes.
It is very possible that, over time it will migrate through the ground and reach new residences. But on my end, I haven't seen a big increase in testing.
Has there any not related to the school, any new installations?
Yeah, I think with we didn't install with the school, right? We just did the testing.
Yeah, that was that, yeah, it just in that 500-foot radius,
Um,
the radius around the Leverett Road and as it reaches out, has there been any new?
I can't recall any. I know that we've gotten a few non-detects that I do recall from the latest batch, but I think the next round of testing isn't until September or thereabouts. So we'll have a more accurate picture next month.
We were hoping to have a special town meeting in October based on our bylaw.
And I think one thing certainly we could consider with the special town meeting is I don't necessarily know that it has to be an extravagant amount that we need to request additional, but there needs to be something in that account because 92,000 is not going to carry us through the end of the fiscal year. I mean, I think that much is clear.
So we have an opportunity to have some results by September to know if we need to put it on in October.
No, not necessarily. So what this is, this only covers us through December. And it wouldn't cover us through additional testing cycles through the rest of this fiscal year.
And right, so we would know we were going over, so we could put it on a special town meeting and determine that we want to add 50,000 to, or whatever the amount is. I'm just pulling that from my head.
And importantly too, like the reason that we got only a 6-month contract is so that we have the opportunity to go through the procurement process. There's no crystal ball in this situation, but we could reasonably expect to get some competitive bids for this service, and then maybe that would come in less than what Ty and Bond had initially quoted us. This just buys us that time to get something really comprehensive together and put it out.
Yeah, that's it. And how did Ty and Bond get in there to begin with?
We initiated them right from the start.
Right, so
I think so. That's what the email seemed to demonstrate.
Yeah, they had I believe at the time, because this has been going on for several years now, at the time they had the most experience with PFAS.
Right.
Because they had been working on it with several towns already. So that was partly, I think, why we engaged them initially, because they had the experience we needed. Yes, Brennan?
I just wanted to say, instead of September, I'd probably expect it to be more October, November, as that's how the previous cycle went.
Okay, thank you.
So it does typically span over 2 to 3 months because they can only do so many tests per day.
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense. So yeah, I think the reason that's why we engaged them, and so many towns have, because they have that experience. More have gained experience since. Because
Yeah, right.
it's a very wide.
No,
I don't think there's a town it hasn't touched in Massachusetts in some way.
yeah, I think that.
Only if they haven't looked, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, or had a fire department or, training or a firehouse fire.
Or airport.
Or an airport or anything that has brought these to our groundwater. So,
And we are obligated, so like even without signing this right now, like we do still have to do testing and monitoring. So one thing I think would be a good idea is maybe like if the FinCom came to a select board meeting or some of the reps from the FinCom came just to talk about it, if we did have to strategize for a special town meeting. We just want to be prepared.
So we basically have this 92,000 now, and if we sign this contract and the related labs, that's gone, right?
Possible. I mean, it
Well,
says not to exceed, but that, I don't know
Right.
what that ultimately will look like
And how long period will that get us
through December.
through December?
You know, is this something that's pretty much even throughout the course of a year, this type of testing and work, or is it more? Is it possible a lot of it could be in the first half or the last half of this year?
No,
No, it is.
it's pretty
So whatever,
throughout.
so whatever costs we incur over these 6 months, we're likely to see the similar cost for the next 6 months. I guess
Yeah.
that's my
Yes,
question.
yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
low.
Yeah, the only big, huge uptick and big inflush was when it was first found and you were doing that first,
Yeah.
500 feet from every time it tested. And that's where the huge expense came in.
Yeah.
And then now you're kind of, like Brian said, it hasn't changed so dramatically. So, it's at least consistent.
But I'm saying over the course of I'm saying over the course of 12 months, the cost is going to be roughly the same each of those 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, if we base it off of their initial 1 year projection, then we'd be looking at costs not to exceed, I think it was 104,000. So 92 isn't that far off of that figure.
Okay.
Which is why I'm not sure that, the special town meeting amount would necessarily be large, but it's just that it's just hard, it's really hard to predict.
And it
It'll go.
I mean, you could have 10 more houses be identified too, right?
Yeah.
That is possible. It could move. I see you, Frank. And so unknown, it's kind of like the dam. It's unknown.
Yeah, right.
It's groundwater. Maybe the drought has helped us keep it stable.
But at this point in time, when we pay the money for a year, are we able to generate that money, or do we have to, I know we're borrowing some at one point, right?
We have some PFAS loans out now. I would have to look into that a little bit more to give you that specific. But tonight,
Because it sounds like we're basically talking about having, I don't know, $150,000 to $180,000 a year in expenses, right? And I right.
yeah,
Just
I would say that's probably a failed. And the other complicating factor is that there's no grants available for people with wells, which is the issue that we ran into.
Yeah.
Previously.
Which is another reason we call your senators.
Yeah, right.
So grants or state support really is more.
For people who have water systems.
Oh.
Yeah, they have public
Because they
water.
can treat a large number of it by using the industrial size
Yeah.
filters that we're
Yeah, yeah.
putting in individual houses.
Yeah.
Which sounds, in the long run, it's more expensive initially, but in the long run, it's cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frank, I did see your hand.
I just want to mention that we're going to have to go to town meeting for monies no matter what, because we don't have enough to do the end of the fiscal year between January and June.
Right.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's a given. So how we
It's
fluff
just-
it up is, you have to look at that. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
And what's, you say this doesn't include testing, any sense for what that additional,
We can run that figure. It should be pretty easy to do. We can have scale to just pull the laboratory testing.
because we're looking at really 60s, whatever, 67 plus
Yeah.
the testing.
Or Brennan, do you have a copy of the recent PACE invoice? Actually, I probably do on my phone. Send them that.
Try to find one real quick.
I just found one from, what is the date on here? It's from earlier in July. This particular one was $300. So they're fairly small increments. It's just that we get a lot because it's per household.
Is that for one household, 300 for one?
Yeah, it was a location at one household.
So 300 for one household. And
we have 70 households on the whole, is that right?
We have 21 homes that are monitored semi-annually, but do not yet have PFAS detection or a POET. Is there any?
And that
There-
amount can differ per property depending on if they have a
Yeah.
dual poet system, they have to test both the systems, so it's more than 300. It can be up to, I think it's like 500 up.
Yeah. Makes sense. So there's a lot of variables
Right.
about this. Oh, this is the part I was looking for. Yeah, 14 two-vessel poets, and then samples at about 30 households with single vessel. And then obviously that could change based on if the groundwater moves in some way.
So yeah, that seems, I thought we had more than that, so that's good that that's good. If there's a good side of it.
Yeah, no, that is the silver lining.
Yeah, right.
so do I hear a motion to sign the 6-month contract with Iron Bond? Knowing that we'll be, not that this is part of the motion, but knowing that we'll be going to a meeting, asking for more.
So moved.
Second,
Right, all those in favor?
Walt and I.
Stocker, aye.
Make peace on the wall.
I said when we first started have to spell PFAS stuff. Believe me, this is like this thing's gonna be with us for years. This is gonna cost us down millions of dollars by the time it's done.
Yes.
Time it's
Yeah,
done.
well. I'll grab that later.
Okay.
Okay, and then
All right, so then, next topic is to vote on year-end budget line transfers.
so these were all approved at yesterday's FinCom meeting. I did go ahead and add 2 additional ones, which the FinCom already knew were gonna happen. Which are the last 2. There's a couple longevity bonuses that we had missed, and Gail recommended that they come out of the town clerk salary. So there's gonna be a couple salary lines that were underspent, one of which was the town clerk, which is fairly intuitive why. The police chief's contract was lower than we had initially budgeted for. And because we had one of our highway department workers out for an extended period of time last summer, there was a fair amount of money left over in highway rate wages, which we used to pad the expenses that you see on the left side. So, additional hours for the admin assistant, the part about my salary, a copy of my contract wasn't given to the FinCom, so they didn't know about some language changes. We under budgeted. So the FinCom had asked 2 questions. One was why the independent audit was so high, and the other was why the sanitary and rubbish lines were high. And so in the case of the audit, that's because we didn't budget enough. It ended up being little over $20,000 to have the audit done, which we have to do every 2 years.
Every 2 years, right?
Legal expenses, those were just higher than anticipated. There were some legal issues that we had to get through council, and part of that was through the personnel handbook revision that we did. Electricity, that is related to the solar panels at the library. It's lag between when the library went live and when the solar panel kicked in. So that's what that's about.
Construction.
No, that was when they opened. Mhm.
After.
Yep. We went a little bit over for our internet expenses, IT support. We needed some significant IT help. There's also some website upgrades that we've been needing to make in order to be ADA compliant, which will be a new state and federal regulation that we'll need to comply with. There was additional call responses for the firefighters and additional trainings outside of what we had initially projected. There was some small accounting error with Dave's salary when it was before annual town meeting. So that's why you see that $200 charge. I'm gonna hold off on snow and ice. But in terms of the rubbish and sanitary landfill, those additional costs are related to increased fuel costs. So because of all yep, because of that and because of the difficulty with getting oil, that's why we saw those two increases in those lines. Veterans benefits, I believe we had someone new qualify. And then again, you'll see the other ones are longevity and some Medicare funds. And then in terms of snow and ice, well, we had a really difficult winter. And so that accounts for the bulk of what we were over. It's close to, it is over $100,000 over for snow and ice. And a lot of that, A, was the manpower hours, but B, increased costs of salt. And that really hurt us throughout the year, so.
Yeah, snow and ice. Oh, if you only could figure out how to budget that better, but I don't, you can't.
You can't really, you never know what it's.
Right, yeah, predicting the weather, yeah.
You could take the last 5 years or the highest years and average them together.
Right.
But then Mother Nature's gonna say, oh, you planned that much, I'm gonna give you something different, you know?
No. Which is not, well, it's good at least in the sense that is the only line that we can legally carry the deficit, so.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And there are some additional funds becoming available from the state. We talked about that last night at FinCom too. And there's a separate pot of money that's gonna be application based, so we'll definitely submit an application for that.
Or snow and ice or okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's some, it doesn't mean that we can't take action now, but hopefully we could, reimburse ourselves.
Right. But there's help out. It's good. All right, so I think we vote on these mainly as a group. So do I hear a motion to approve the proposed budget transfers for fiscal year 2026? We're in 2027.
Yes, now we're in 27.
Second, yes, you hear proposal second.
All those in favor?
Walton, I.
Stalker, aye.
Makepeace O'Neill, aye. Do you want me to sign one of them?
Yes.
Or all of us to sign?
I mean, the only thing that's a little scary to me about this, as much as anything, is like, so much of it's coming from the fact that we didn't have a town clerk that's paying the bills there. A little scary to me that the budget's going down the road here like next year. And they're gonna be it's gonna be a little tough to come up with this kind of money every year.
Yes, I think like I said, if you took out the snow and ice, it was about 40,000. So that to me isn't. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, particularly with the increased fuel cost, because that also represented like $8,000 of charges. But I do think certainly one pattern that I've noticed is that we have very thin margins in our budget.
Yes.
So when we have any situation that requires a contingency, it's really difficult to find those funds. But the FinCom is working, they're doing long-range planning tools and trying to get a better handle on the capital plan and how we incorporate that into the budget. So I think we're making some good progress on that. And then I talked to Jim a little earlier, and maybe one thing we want to do at the start of the fiscal year, and Frank, you can get a heads up on this, is maybe we want to do like a joint meeting with the select board and the two main financial entities, just to kind of say, let's look at that long range tool.
Well, last year we met a couple of times together, which we hadn't met in the past. So that we kind of, started that, but early in the year.
Yeah, this is really to try to drive getting this 5-year plan. We all get on the same page that we're gonna work on, whether it's the capital, whether it's the finance side, it's the budget for the next 5 years. What our budgets look like the next 5 years, what does our cash reserves look like the next 5 years? It's broader.
Yeah, rather than the little pictures of year and year, little slices.
And I think the finance committee already has the tools, like Haley said, to start working this process.
And we can help them by whatever we send down their way.
Yeah. I always think nobody really likes a lot of meetings, but if you're all in the same room, then you only have to say it one time. hopefully.
Well, it's good to see each other too.
Yes.
Work with each other. We worked with each other separately through you.
Yes.
So it's nice
True.
to see each other and be in the same room and work all together for a few moments here and there.
You're right.
You do a great job at that too, Haley.
Thank you.
All right, town administrator report.
Okay. So a couple updates. First one is on the Bright Arrow emergency communication platform. So our account is set up. I need to do a little tinkering with it, but then I'll hand it off to our emergency management team. But essentially we have already a public link that people can use to sign up. So we'll do like a flyer for that and hopefully get that live next week. And so we can start people enrolling and start doing a big push to have people enroll in that new program.
Just my benefit,
Oh, so the emergency communication
too much time.
platform. So we used to use Code Red, and so basically, like, let's say there was a power outage and you could send a notification and it would go to your phone or, call you auto
Yeah.
call, but they had a data breach and we lost a lot of user information. And so we wanted to pivot to a different company and we chose Bright Arrow. It's actually the same platform that the elementary school uses. So there's some consistency there. But it's really nice, it's you would write in your message, hey, Sand Hill Road's closed. You can fire it off as a text. You can record it yourself. You can have a computer generated voice make the phone call for you. But it's just a way to let residents know, like in an emergency, that this is what's going on. Something that's independent from our town announce email platform through MailChimp, which isn't really designed to be used for that kind of thing, because you want to have someone's cell phone number or their house phone number. So that we're going to plan to go live next week, and I'll have a little bit more, probably definitely the flyer done by Monday for emergency management. That.
Cool.
I wanted to highlight that we got the $25,000 grant towards the cost of a new grader, which is excellent. 250, sorry. It's late. All right. Having numbers.
Is that
We're talking about numbers.
That's official?
Yes, we got it.
We
It's not going to cover the full cost of the grader, but it gets us very, very nearly close. And I think Dave was looking at Chapter 90 funds to make up the difference.
Awesome.
And so what we're just waiting for right now is the contract paperwork to come through from the state. Once we get that signed, and that'll be great. And one of the big issues with the roads is that as much as we might want to work on them and grade them, if the machine is in the shop. And I haven't talked to Dave yet, but I think we should have a retirement party for our old grader, which celebrated its 41st birthday this year. So
what's gonna happen with that one?
I'm not sure. I mean, part of me feels like if talking about like history, I should keep it. It's like this
A display, we can figure out.
Yeah. Or maybe, there's also practically you could just keep it and, maybe in a pinch if it was ever needed.
Right.
Have something
Could
separate,
be
but
part of the garden.
it could be.
It's one of the things- it could be one of the things that
Yeah.
kids could climb around in there.
So highway departments.
Oh, yeah.
So that's great. Also on the meeting on the 10th, I have the results from the emergency planning survey. We got 149 people to complete the survey, so I'm really happy with that sample size. And I'll have a little presentation about and some recommendations for what we can do for the future. I'll make a plug that we have a vacancy on the personnel board, and if anyone's interested in serving on the personnel board, they should contact the town moderator. We have 2 grant applications out that we're waiting to hear back on. One is a technical assistance grant that Michael DeKira helped write, and then the other is the design grant for the Lake Wyola dam redesign. So hopefully we'll hear from those soon. Those would be really significant for the town to have that funding for those projects. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about is I got an email from the FERCog about Good Neighbor Day. So Good Neighbor Day is sponsored by the Mass Coalition for the community, to build community and end loneliness. And basically if you have an event during the last weekend in September, so the 25th through the 29th, you get some free publicity through the FERCog if you want to be part of that effort. And so I've already reached out to some of our department heads because I think we should do Good Neighbor Day, celebrate Shutesbury Day. And that would hopefully be set for September 26th, which is the Saturday of that weekend. And so more details to come once we make those plans. But I did want to flag that date as a potential fun celebratory event that we could have on the common. And that would be really great for the committee to look at the event while it's on the common and think, oh, gee, you know, what do we want to make sure that we. Yeah, how am I being finagle?
No, so resurrecting the Celebrate Shrewsbury.
Right.
Yeah.
We haven't had since before COVID. So.
Yes, but we have a lot to celebrate and we should. So people should stay tuned for that.
And the select board usually sets up a tent for that.
Get your queen's, you know, wave hand
Well,
on.
it has been the, it's like a string sort of thing.
Oh, fun. I like that too.
Friendly competition between the fire chief and the police chief.
Excellent. Yes, we can have a lot of fun with that. So. So that's my reporting.
Police chief, is Devin back yet? See, he get back.
Oh, yeah. He's back. Oh, and I guess the last thing is, so there's some printouts for you on some Logitech microphone hubs and pods to enhance our audio capabilities in this room. And this is courtesy of our sound technician who gave us these great recommendations.
Wow.
And these work with everything we have here.
They're all compatible. And so we can have it be so that someone in the audience can.
Well, so the idea is to take this table and turn it around like, so it's running that way. And then have this microphone is for this table, but there's put another one for another table or the other end of this table. You'll notice today, like a bunch of people are like in the audience saying, hey, can you speak up? You know, they never, you know, they can't hear. People-
Yeah, you could do it down the table or you could do it, have one going that way or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, we could get two tables, just one just this size, just made this longer, or maybe a T or something. I don't know.
Oh, a T's great. Cause you have one under it lane.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, we'll work with it. We've got this far.
But I think, I think getting these two pieces of equipment is a great idea.
I do not disagree.
Yeah, I mean, no.
And this will address the issue that some people had about the hybrid meetings.
I think it will. I mean, I think it'll help. I don't know whether it'll solve the problem, but that's.
Yeah.
When I was sitting here, when I first sat down, it didn't seem loud because I just walked in.
Right.
Then as I was sitting here and I was trying to hear, I was like, oh, well, the air conditioner's on.
Yeah.
Turn that off. I'm like, huh. And I was trying to think.
There's something else running.
Yeah, that's the big guy. And then the other one. So Frank updated us. There'll be a way to switch off. So when if you're having a meeting, to be able to switch
Just
the,
switch it over there, something say.
it'll be, yeah, that'll
emergency
one will be in.
switches or something.
There'll be a switch rather than going and doing that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Cool.
So thank you, Frank, for making that all easier for us. And which would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I'll help.
And then the microphones won't have that white noise in the background.
Right. I think the problem is just like that microphone. It's doing all the work to pick up whoever's in
Yeah.
those chairs there sitting. It's not enough microphones. That's all. Simple enough. And it's for $300 to try it. If you will. It's
Why not? It's not going to make it worse.
not gonna make it
Rest.
worse. Cool.
The amount of improvement we'll see, but it's not gonna make it.
So we can just do this without,
Yeah, we have
we have money for this, right?
we still have money in the town hall basement renovation account. So yeah, so we can pay for it out of there and still have leftover.
There you go. Perfect.
Yes. Awesome. I think that's it.
That's it.
We good? All right, so do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Alton, aye.
Stalker eye.
Make peace and Gill. I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I always wonder if someone decides